So you want to retire at 55. You've worked hard, saved diligently, and now you're thinking, do I really need to wait until I'm 59 and a half to touch my 401k? Well, that's when most people stop themselves. But what if I told you there's a little known IRS rule that will allow you to tap into your 401k early and without penalty? Yep, it's real. And it's called the Rule of 55. Hi, I'm Jim Martin, a financial planner and the founder of Martin Wealth Solutions. I've helped hundreds of families transition into retirement with clarity and confidence. And today, we're breaking down how the Rule of 55 works, who qualifies, and the biggest mistakes I see and why it could be a game changer if you're planning on retiring early. So let's dive right in. So what is it? What is the Rule of 55? It's an IRS provision that says if you separate from your employer in or after the year you turn 55, you can start taking withdrawals from your 401k or 403b penalty-free. Normally, withdrawals from retirement accounts come with a 10% IRS penalty, but this rule creates a special exception as long as you follow the guidelines. So yes, you'll still pay ordinary income tax, but that extra 10% ding, that's gone. Here's the key. It only applies to your current employer's plan, not IRAs or old 401ks that you rolled over. Let me tell you about a client. We'll call him Mike. Mike worked for the same utility company for 22 years. He turned 55 in March. After a lot of planning, he decided to retire that summer. He had a healthy 401k, but he didn't want to wait until he's 59 and a half. Because of the Rule of 55, Mike was able to take withdrawals from his current employer's 401k without that 10% penalty. He used those withdrawals to bridge the gap from 55 until when his Social Security kicked in later. No Roth conversion headaches, no 72T distributions, which are pretty darn complex, no penalty, just clean, penalty-free access to his money because we planned for it. Now let's talk about who actually qualifies for the Rule of 55. So you must leave your job either by quitting, retiring, or being laid off in the year or after the year you turn 55. The rule only applies to 401k and 403b plans, not traditional IRAs. It only applies to the plan from your employer you separated from. Now let me say that again because this trips up a lot of people. If you roll that 401k into an IRA after leaving your job, you lose the Rule of 55 protection. It's a critical mistake I see, unfortunately, all the time. So let's clear up some confusion because the Rule of 55, it's not the same as 59 and a half, that rule, when you can withdraw money from any retirement account penalty-free, or the 72T, which lets you take substantially equal periodic payments, say that 5 times fast, but locks you in for 5 years until you're 59 and a half. Roth conversion or Roth contribution rules, they're totally different tax treatment. Also, don't confuse it with the Rule of 85, which some pensions use for early withdrawal or early retirement eligibility. That's a whole different ballgame. Now, let me talk to you about one of the biggest mistakes I see with the Rule of 55. Mistake number 1, rolling over your 401k too soon. This one hurts. Someone retires at 55. They think they should roll their 401k into an IRA thinking they're simplifying things. Now they've lost access, that penalty-free access to those dollars, and they need to wait until they're 59 and a half, do a 72T, or deal with that pesky 10% penalty. Let's not do that. Mistake number 2, confirming plan rules. Even though the IRS, they allow this rule, not every employer plan is required to have the Rule of 55. So before you make any moves, make sure you check the plan documentation, call HR, because some plans may have some quirks, restrictions, or maybe even better distribution options. And then mistake number 3, thinking this applies to all of your retirement accounts. Remember, this isn't a blanket rule. It only applies to the plan associated with your most recent employer. So let's say you worked at 3 companies and you left one at 55. Only that plan may qualify. The others, well, there's different rules. So how do we use the rule of 55 strategically for our clients and for early retirees? Well, we want to keep the 401k, some of it or all of it, where it's at currently if you're retiring between 55 and 59 because we want that access. We're going to leverage and use other taxable accounts to keep 401k withdrawals to a minimum, potentially allowing you to stay in a lower tax bracket and maybe even do some Roth conversions. We want to coordinate Social Security, pensions, Roth conversions to stretch out that tax efficiency. And ultimately, we want to stress test your plan. We want to model income needs, taxes, portfolio sustainability under different scenarios. Here's the bottom line. The rule of 55 gives you options, and I love options. But without a coordinated plan, you can trip over the details. It's important to note that the rule of 55, it's not for everyone. But it's a fantastic tool if you're planning to retire between 55 and 59. If the bulk of your assets are in a 401k or 403b, or if you need the income before other benefits turn on like Social Security or pensions. It's also important that this could help you avoid the complex 72T rules or Roth conversion ladders that are out there that can trip people up. It can also work really well for people who have oversaved and want to take a career break in their mid-50s. They're not quite ready to retire, but they want to step away from full-time report or take a little bit of a hiatus. Used correctly, it's like having a custom-built bridge working between your working years and full retirement. So let's recap. The rule of 55 lets you tap into your 401k, 403b penalty-free if you leave the job age 55 or later. It only applies to your current employer's plan, not your IRAs. Make sure you don't roll over your 401k until you really understand what your plan is. And this is a really powerful tool for early retirees, but it requires smart coordination. Used right, this bridges the gap between working and full retirement. You know, the rule of 55 is one of those rare retirement rules that can open a real door to early retirement. But like most powerful tools, it only works if you use it the right way. If you're thinking about retiring early and you're wondering how to turn your nest egg into reliable income without triggering penalties or costly tax mistakes, we'd love to help. Visit martinwealth.com if you want to learn more about how we may be able to help you. And hey, if this video gave you new insight, give it a like, maybe even subscribe. And feel free to share it with a friend who's thinking about retiring early as well. Hey, I'm Jim Martin with Martin Wealth Solutions, and I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. We'll see you next week.